Hello, everybody. It's Ethany, and I'm here in my very probably quite stereotypical witchy attire. The hat's probably going to go, but I just wanted to post something a little bit funny, and I've got my Hermione wand because today I am talking about 20 signs that you are a real witch, and I'm going to talk about some of my examples that I have from growing up. It is a common question that I get asked whether something or someone is a real witch. It can be a very, very difficult question to answer because everybody's journey is different. Some people come to the craft for a lifetime, some for a season, and we all have a different path to walk. But some of the things that I share, which have been true in my experience, and other things have come from other witches that I've known over the years. I talk a lot about certain aspects, but this is no way meant to be a checklist. There are things on this list that if you don't resonate with, it doesn't mean that you or I are less witchy. If you don't even own one of these hats, it's a bunch of stuff that people really stick, too strictly to checklists. If you feel as though I've missed anything, then that's also cool. If you've had a different experience, and that's also cool. There are different types of witches with different interests and skills. I'll give you a really good example. A lot of witches have a green thumb. I do not. I somehow manage to kill succulents. I just can't keep plants alive. However, the art of divination is something that I'm very, very strong in and something I've had an interest in ever since I was young. And some other witches don't feel drawn to that practice at all. We are all different, and that is 100% okay. As a matter of fact, it is amazing because otherwise life would be really bloody boring. Last thing before I get started, sometimes when we're children, our natural inclinations shine through, but as we develop into adulthood, they drop away. Some of the things on my list may feel as though you aren't even practicing them now. That's okay. Trust whatever you feel drawn to. This is probably going to be a bit of a long one. We're going to ditch the hat. So grab a cup of tea while I try to put my hat down somewhere, my sorting hat. Grab a cup of tea. I've got lemon and ginger today. I have been talking and talking and talking and talking over the last few days, and let's jump into it. So the first sign that you are a real witch is that you have energetic and emotional sensitivity. You identify as a sensitive person. You feel the environment that you're in when you walk into a room. You get a sixth sense about people and generally feel all the feelings. This is an absolute superpower, even though sometimes it may not feel that way. The big thing about being sensitive energetically and having those feelings and having this ability is really learning how to put in really good boundaries and actually work with those abilities to tune them into something that you can shield or put up and down. As someone who does tarot readings and someone who is very, very sensitive, and I was very, very sensitive ever since I was a child, I had to learn how to protect myself. Otherwise, I would probably be a mess on the floor. So if you have found that you are a sensitive person and you have been for maybe your whole life, there are absolutely things that you can do in order to work on that. A lot of psychic development work can absolutely help: meditation, grounding, and boundary work. The second sign that you are a real witch, and I want to say that real witch thing is like, I'm talking about like you're not a cartoon witch. You're not like a stereotypical cartoon witch or a witch from TV. I'm talking about like real witchcraft here. Is that you were or still are a nature treasure hunter. You love to collect rocks, shells, feathers, leaves, and other natural treasures. You like to keep them in a special place or on your altar. If you did this as a child, you might not have known that you were creating your own magical altar, but now you can see it for what it is and what it was. I used to, and I guess I have continued to do this, but now I've upgraded to like crystals. But I used to collect rocks as a child and put them in egg cartons. So in the empty egg carton, every rock would have its own little egg space, and I used to just think it was the most magical thing when I used to wash them and they would come out a different color because obviously the water is making them more vivid, and then I used to think that was like the best thing in the world, and so I had this massive large rock collection. Now I have a massive large rock collection, but they're all over altars all over my house. The third sign that you are a real witch is that you talk to animals. You have a deep connection to animals and to nature. You love to watch the seasons change, and it's not just talking to animals, it is, being in tune with the natural world. You prefer that flowers stay alive in the ground rather than a vase, and this is something that is extremely true to me. I don't like getting flowers in regards to a gift or a thank you or whatever it may be. I prefer other things. I would rather the flowers be alive outside. You adore animals and see the magic in every natural space. I don't know about you all, if you're watching this and you identify as a witch, if you've been on this path for a while, but I am never, ever not in awe of nature. I have had my breath taken away a number of times from just going walks in forests and along the beach, and I remember the feeling of being around the mountain gods when I saw the Rockies for the first time. Actually, like physically saw them for the first time. Every time I see an animal in nature, I am so happy that I get to see this experience, have that experience. Whether it's been dolphins that I used to see when I was riding the train in from work to work in Perth, or whether it is like seeing seals in the harbour downtown here in Vancouver, to squirrels, ladybugs. Oh my gosh, and ladybugs land on me. Oh, so magical. I still get completely blown away, and it is sacred, and I love it so much. You may even talk to animals, you may talk to your pets, you may commune with animals, and you may even talk to the moon, you may hug trees, all those sorts of fun things. People may think you're a bit kooky, but I think that's completely normal. Potato, potato, right? The fourth sign that you may be a real witch is that you had early magical tendencies. You made potions and spells as a child. So you used sand, rocks, twigs, leaf, flower petals, and anything that you could find and get your hands on to make magic potions. It could have been paper scraps in your room, anything that you could have got your hand on. The world around you was and still is full of magic. You played that you were magical, or a witch, or a magical elf, or a sorcerer. I know for me, my gateway witch was Glinda from The Wizard of Oz. I want all of everything that she has on her. I want her dress, her wand, her crown, her shoes, and I want to be able to move by bubble. And anytime you got a chance, you would play with some magical powers. You are still mourning that you didn't get a letter from Hogwarts. I feel you. Just absolutely devo. I use the excuse that they got lost because they couldn't send an owl to Australia. I will keep telling myself that. But all those little early inclinations that you really loved to play as a magical creature or a magical character as a witch and making spells and potions is a pretty good indicator. The fifth sign that you are a real witch is fantastical beings. Anything with magic in it is immediately the best. You want to be a fairy or a mermaid and a unicorn. I want to be all of those things. You collected stories, trinkets, movies, and all media that includes magical beings, and you need it in your life. Anything to do with the fantasy. So you could pick a genre of book, you went to something that had a magic in it. If you wanted to watch a movie, you also went into that as well. If you were asked to pick a toy, you were going to pick a toy that had a magical slant on it. Those are some indications there that you were magical, and I really feel like that stuck out quite a bit for me as a child, because having sisters, my younger sister would pick out anything with animals in it. So she had like all the littlest pet shop stuff that we could afford and get our hands on, and I would immediately go to like the fairies and anything to do with that. And it was a very clear kind of like separation at that point. She does like fantasy novels, but this is definitely not her path. And it's just interesting when you look at like the makeup of what you were surrounded by or what you chose as a child. If you were magically inclined, you may have seen that early on. The sixth sign that you are a real witch is that you are a living thermostat. And I'll tell you what I mean about that. You are able to change the mood and energy in the room just by being in it. If not kept in check, you could throw off other people's mood if you were in a bad mood. And likewise, if you're in a good mood, you lift everyone up in the room with you. You can also feel other people's emotions immediately without them saying anything. So I have been told, I remember one thing I had to learn as a leader and a manager, and I'm probably still not the best at this, but it's a lesson that I learned pretty early on in my career when I was working a muggle job, was that my manager told me that I'm a walking thermostat, like I'm a living thermostat. If I was in a good mood, I would come in and everyone would affect it and I would feel it. And yes, some of that is probably the fact that I was projecting my energy and not controlling it, which I learned to do. And if I was in a bad mood, I could also bring in the thunderstorms. So it kind of like peels off you, like it rolls off you like waves. So if you're a living thermostat, if you can tend to affect the environment around you, that is maybe a very good sign that you are a real witch. On the other side, the seventh sign that you are a real witch is that you are an emotion whisperer. So you know how other people are feeling without them saying anything. You know when someone needs a hug or if they need space, and you often act intuitively and respond without a single word. This is also being able to hold space very well for people without any training. So not feeling as though you need to fill any voids or any gaps of silence, because you're very comfortable knowing that that's just what that person needs. A lot of these things as well, like learning how to tap into your intuitive and emotional and empathic abilities, you can actually learn as well. So if you aren't naturally empathic or aren't naturally energetically sensitive, you can actually train and do work for that as well. The eighth sign that you could be a real witch is sweet dreams and beautiful nightmares. You dream a lot and tend to remember large portions of them. Your dreams or part of the dream can literally come true and has, the good, the bad, and the ugly. You might dream of someone you haven't thought about in ages, and then they would contact you the next day. They would send you an email or a message or slide into your DMs. You have or may have experienced a sense of premonition around a pregnancy, death, or opportunity. This happens a lot to me and has over my lifetime. And usually it's like snippets of things. I've been very lucky that I haven't had any premonitions of death around people. I have absolutely had premonitions of people contacting me, of things happening in dreams, and usually it's like little snippets, and I have absolutely seen that happen. I have always remembered my dreams. I know a lot of witches who do not remember their dreams at all, so remember that it is not a prerequisite that you have to remember your dreams. That is absolutely not the case. It is just a sign that you may be a witch. This number 9, the 9th sign of the 20 signs that you're a real witch, is ancient mystic. So mythology and ancient history have always fascinated you. You loved learning about gods and goddesses of ancient times, and you are really drawn to different ancient pantheons. I fell in love very early on. My first love for ancient magic was ancient Egypt. Everything about it was just, I wanted to be an archaeologist. I wanted to be Indiana Jones. I wanted to be able to explore Egypt and do Egyptology. And then I realized that there was no work in that. And my mum told me that. And so I didn't do that anymore. But oh my gosh, if I could be Lara Croft, I would. That was just like hashtag life goals. But I loved learning about the mythology. I love learning about hieroglyphics. I could get lost in museums that have anything to do with ancient Egypt, ancient Greece, ancient Mesopotamia, anything to do with ancient worlds, and I am 100% there. You might have found that you were also very interested in ancient times, in different mythologies. It could be Arthurian magic, or Camelot and all that sort of stuff. The 10th sign that you are a real witch is that you are a ritual lover. You create little rituals throughout your life. You have lucky days, lucky numbers, lucky pieces of clothing or jewelry that you wear at all times for specific reasons. Now, this is you might know that you're a witch and already know that you are heavily into ritual and you really love all of the bells and whistles and you want to have all the robes, honey, and you want to do all of that fabulousness. Some people love doing their rituals in streetwear, which is completely cool as well. And you may have been doing a lot of little rituals that when you found the path of the witch, you were like, holy crap, that's what I was doing throughout my life. So you might be really into ritual, you may not, but the little things that you do around your space, having special pieces of jewelry or clothing that you've imbued with power without really even knowing it. And a lot of us have talismans like guardian angels or crosses or saints that we wore growing up. This ring, is a ring of mine that is one of my all-time favorites. I got it, I think, in 2006 in Spellbox in Melbourne. Hello to everyone in Spellbox in Melbourne. And it has a pentacle actually in the way they've cut the clear quartz. And I used to wear it. I still wear it every day, but I could wear it to my muggle job and no one would know that I was wearing a protective symbol. And I was able to have that as like my power. It's my power ring. It stays on my left hand, which is my dominant hand, on the middle finger. So I have these little rituals of things. I have rituals that I do before I do all my readings. I have rituals that I have at my desk when I'm doing writing. When I was a kid, there was a lot of magical spells and rituals for things. So, you may have already had that little knack of things growing up. The 11th sign that you are a real witch, and I have to say, if there is any one thing that really hit home for me, was the craft feels like home. When you start reading about paganism and witchcraft, you felt like you have come home. Things start to click because you have been doing a lot of the practices of a witch without the label. You have been doing things intuitively, like healing or sending energy, doing protective work like white light or protective orbs your whole life. You've always loved nature, but you feel like you came home. And that was exactly how I felt when I read the first book. If you don't know the books, you can go and check out 11, the blog post and video on the 11 books that shaped me as a witch. And I talk about the learned art of witches and wizards, which was the first book I ever read when I was a teenager in Alexandra Library in Perth. And I remember just feeling like I came home. I was like, this is what I've been searching for my entire life. And I have never, ever looked back. I feel like I've done this before and that I'm home. And that for me was all the confirmation that I've have ever needed to know that I am a witch. And even though the word witch is getting very reclaimed, I felt comfortable calling myself a witch for quite a while. And I know that it takes people some time. You might be Wiccan, you might not be Wiccan, you might be pagan in a different way, or Asatru, or a druid, whatever path it may be. So that's feeling like you're coming home. It's a feeling in your soul. The 12th sign that you are a real witch is the moon must be full. You know instinctively without tracking the moon, because I know a lot of witches actively track the moon, that it was a full moon because you couldn't sleep. I have known this. I have had very, very big bouts of insomnia my entire life. I think that has a little bit to do with the creative mind that I have, where the muses tend to knock on my door at 3 o'clock in the morning. But I knew when it was a full moon without even looking out my window before I started to really track the moon, because I was unable to sleep the day before, the day of, and the day after the full moon. It's just, I tend to be very, very full of energy, or my energy is very heightened at that time. I'm finding now that I'm even more attuned depending on what sign the moon is in. Depends on what kind of experience I'm going to have. And that's not me influencing it. I'm like, oh yeah, it must be a full moon in Taurus, because I'm feeling really tired and I just want to sleep, and I have more energy, like less energy. And that's for me going into a Taurian thing. If it's a full moon in Virgo, all I want to do is like spend money, because I have a Virgo rising and I get really nitpicky on stuff. So it's just a real interesting perspective to know when you start to track the moon, what is going on. The 13th sign that you are a real witch, and I need to is what the future holds. So divination arts have always fascinated you. You may have even like read your friend's palms growing up, not knowing anything about anything, or tea leaves as a kid. You may have created your own divination systems. You see patterns in the clouds and in nature. Tarot cards, pendulums, and all other oracles were just something that you either love now or you have your whole life. Again, you might not be a divination witch per se, but you have always really enjoyed the vibe of them and the allure of them, and you've always wanted to get them or have someone do the reading for you. There's just that, like, there is that instant attraction that you really like about divination stuff. The 14th sign that you are a real witch is that you've already seen it. You remember past lives. You remember aspects of your past lives. Some people have extremely clear memories of their past lives. Some people have very clear memories of past lives being a witch. I remember 2 past lives of mine. One, I was a sailor. I was not a very good person. I was a male and I was a sailor. And another life I can remember was First Nation in North America, which is way, way, way back. And I was a male as well there. But some people have like really vivid experiences of being a witch in the past or being accused of witchcraft. You may experience a lot of deja vu when you go somewhere new, or the people that you have met for the first time. Something that happens to me, and I honestly feel as though it's gotten stronger because of the work that I do, and because I work with the tarot, and I'm always sort of reaching into potential futures for my clients when I'm doing readings, is that I will feel as though I'm a few seconds ahead of everybody. So the deja vu comes, but I can actually remember more. It's more than a feeling. It's like, then you said that, then you said this, then you said that, and then you said, and then like, but I'm a few seconds ahead. That has been happening more and more often for me. Again, I think that's because I have been energetic sensitive as a child, and I've worked, I've done a lot of psychic development and a lot of training over the years, and that's what I do. It doesn't happen all the time. It usually happens very unexpectedly, but it's freaking flippy when it does happen. I'm like, oh my gosh, I feel like, yeah, it's like, it's a weird, if you've ever had that experience, let me know in the comments. I would love to know if anybody else has that. It's quite trippy. It's amazing. I feel like if I had gone to Hogwarts, I would have absolutely done a lot of I wouldn't, as much as of a Hermione Granger that I am, and I very much identify with her on so many levels, I would have loved divination. That probably would have been like my absolute favorite thing. I'm a little bit, I'm Ravenclaw, and I'm a little bit Luna and a little bit Hermione. Like, if you match those together, I think that's pretty much close to who I am as a person. The 15th sign that you are a real witch is, this is Halloween, this is Halloween. Oh, Halloween. Couldn't it be Halloween all year round? And I know Samhain is a different thing to Halloween. Samhain is our Sabbath, is our sacred day where the veil is the thinnest. It's also in Beltane as well. But that is a very, very sacred day to witches. But Halloween as a seasonal celebration, oh my gosh. I would have Halloween decorations. I actually do have Halloween decorations. Hang on, behind that bee there, if you can see this, that there is a Halloween mobile that I got last year, and it's up all year round. I have my Jack Skellington stuff as well on another little altar behind me. I love Halloween. Autumn decor, Halloween decor is around all the time. It's not just seasonal items to you. You get excited every year for Halloween collections. I know I do. I go get all of the things. It was hard for me as a kid in Australia, as we don't celebrate Halloween like they do in North America, but I am surely making up for it now. I live in Canada, and The Nightmare Before Christmas is still one of my favorite movies of all time. I love anything to do with Halloween. I live for it. When I've been to Disneyland, I go during Halloween time for a number of reasons, but I just... I love Halloween so much. Before I have a Halloween-gasm, let's move on. The 16th sign that you are a witch is that you are a rebel. You may not have felt as though you've ever really fit in. You may not have fit in at your school. You may not have fit in with any large organization or institution. So this could be you were a part of like the Girl Guides or Scouts or something like that, an organization where you didn't really feel as though you fit in. It definitely could have been very apparent in your school, but you walked your own path and to the beat of your own drum. Never a really easy thing to do when you're younger. It does get so much better and easier when you become an adult. But I've spoken about this before, but I was very bullied in elementary school or primary school, as they call it in North America, terribly bullied. And I was weird. I loved school. I can't remember a lot of specifics about why I was so weird, but I was just that weird kid who, not in like an icky way, but like I was just, wanted to play fantasy and probably talked to things that weren't there, and that probably freaked out quite a few people. So if you've ever felt as though you haven't fit in anywhere, you probably are on the right track to being someone who walks a different path. The 17th sign that you are a real witch is you consulted with the Internet Oracle. You Googled, am I a witch? Or how do I know if I'm a witch? And that is a bit of a dead giveaway. You've been looking for themes and wanting to see if they fit with how you're feeling or if they fit with your experience. If you've been Googling something like that, it's probably a sign that you are a witch, or you're maybe spying on somebody else. And if you're doing that, that's not cool. Let people live their life. The 18th sign that you are a real witch is the call is coming from inside the house. You think of someone and they call you or email you. All you have to do is think of them and they get in contact, or you know who is on the other line of a call without caller ID. So you might hear a phone ring in the other room and you know who it is before you pick it up. A fun game that you can play to see if this is something that you're really good at, and also it's a psychic development game, is if you're ever in a lobby. I mean, right now that may not be the case because if you're watching this the week it comes out live, we are all in social distancing. But if you're ever in a lobby with a lot of elevators, press the elevator button and go and stand in front of the elevator you think is going to come down intuitively and see if you are right. The 19th sign that you are a real witch is you love the shadow. Your shadow side has never been something you ran away from. You have either had a interest in things like darkness, death, and other taboo things, or things that people may find morbid, or that you really understand the shadow aspect of humanity. You've never shied away from it. You're basically not someone who thinks that love and light is the only way and the only answer. There has to be a balance to everything, and that death is something to understand and to realize, well, firstly, we can't get away from it, but we love the shadow parts of ourselves, or we love to learn to love them, or we at least want to work on them, because if you start this path, you'll find that comes up quite a bit to walk your talk. But if you've liked not necessarily, you don't have to wear black all the time, and I'm wearing black right now, but we don't all wear black, and you don't have to have gone through a goth stage or whatever. It is more about the actual shadow aspect and the things that maybe other people have not taken a big interest in, you have. And the 20th sign that you are a real witch is my body, my pleasure. You have a healthy understanding of sexuality and are free to be yourself in your own skin. And you have never understood what is wrong with being with consensual sexual expression, with nudity, and with a natural way of the body. And you just don't get it. You don't understand why that has been something so censored. And you understand that things that are pleasurable should not be denied as long as it is consensual and ethical. So those are my signs. I hope this is something that you have found helpful or at least entertaining. I would love to hear from you if I have missed anything. Also, if you found something to be true, please let me know. I would love some feedback. I hope you stay magical. And I really do hope, even if this has helped one person, and I will see you all next time.